All right, welcome back. MJ Unpacked, day 2, chatting with some more thought leaders in the space, doing some awesome things. We have an executive recruiter here with us, BRYAN PASSMAN, the head man, only second to his wife in the business, from Hunter & Esquire. How are you?
Doing great, Elliot. Thank you, and nailed it. Yes, Jessica is the boss. You know that.
Please let her know that I said that, and I recognize that. Awesome. But let's dive in. I asked a kind of a staffer the same question yesterday, but I'm interested in your thoughts. Talent across the board at economy at scale is an issue. How is that translating to your industry? Are you finding good talent for these companies, or has that been a struggle?
So yes and no. We're finding talent. That's what we do. It's a struggle. It definitely, thinking back to pandemic 2020, it was nerve-wracking for myself and other recruiters when people were getting sent home. Largely, companies weren't hiring. Unemployment went way up, and I for sure was sitting around wondering, will companies need recruiters? Because it stands to argue it's going to be like shooting fish in a barrel. Everyone's home unemployed. But all sectors of the economy did come roaring back. The cannabis industry competes a lot with retail, leisure, and hospitality, which really came back. They added well over 1 million jobs last year. So it's a pretty good time to be in talent acquisition right now.
Nice.
We're trying to scale. It's hard to hire recruiters, and I think recruiters are essential right now for these companies. You have to go hunt for talent. So we definitely succeed for our clients. We're still around because we're succeeding, but it's tough because unemployment is well below 4%. I forget the phrase for it, but we're essentially at 0 if the Department of Labor classifies it. So the war for talent is real, and if you're not hunting for talent and expecting them to just hit the easy apply button, then you're probably experiencing quite a struggle.
The hunter hunts from Hunter & Esquire. That's awesome.
Indeed.
All right, so let's chat about what is in need right now. So, I remember chatting with you probably middle of last year. Marketing was a big issue, still is a little bit today, but has that been solved? Is marketing still the biggest need for some of these companies? Where are you finding these companies need help?
Yeah, we're so with that other thought, the biggest need is in people operations. So we've been very busy bringing HR leaders and talent acquisition people into cannabis companies, in fact, which we don't mind. Those are good partners when you get the right people in place. So I'd say hiring is most focused on people solutions for these companies and revenue generating activities. Heavy sales leader, sales, chief growth officer, VP revenue, head of wholesale.
What type of background do you look for in sales?
Well, so right about now with where the industry is, most of our clients, especially in plant touching, want to hire someone that's already in the industry, right? So that unicorn candidate, as it's called, has selling experience in a mainstream industry, whatever's most relevant, typically CPG. And now they've moved into cannabis already, and they've effectively built a book of business, and they know the lay of the land. So that's the ideal sales candidate.
Okay.
And in the leadership roles that we fill, it's getting a sales leader that's built and led high-performing sales teams in and outside in cannabis and is very KPI and metrics-driven and can do all the unfun sales ops stuff, because we know in cannabis a lot of selling teams are just running hard. It's like your hair's on fire, do a lot of activity and hope it results in good things, and not actually stopping to understand what's working and what's not and how do we organize the attack. So we're placing a lot of people with companies that can reel the sales teams in and make sure all the talent there is really tapped into. So, I was just having a conversation though, but to your point, marketing has come back, and to a lot of listeners that maybe haven't heard this before and don't view this, your recruiting, your talent acquisition and talent retention efforts are a brand building exercise. So yes, hire great brand builders, but also have great internal and outside talent acquisition partners and retain people, because you treat people well, they're consumers, they're investors, they're friends and family, or all those things. You build your brand through treating people well, among other things.
How is retention in the space right now?
Terrible. Better than before, but terrible. So we don't do a lot of hourly staffing, but I mean that's really rough there. And we live in Boulder now. You know, we moved out to Colorado, and I think 60% of hourly waged workers in the Colorado cannabis industry turn over in the first 60 days.
Wow.
That's expensive.
Is it lack of education? Is it lack of good pay?
But it starts from the first day, from poor onboarding practices on the first day. People make very firm, good or bad decisions about their employment decision in the first day. It's hard to correct that if they have a bad first day. It's really hard to recover from that. So it's onboarding, it's training, and then it's just, you know, there's a lot of incestuous hiring. If you're not paying your people competitively, they're going to leave, especially at that level. The difference of $16 or $19 an hour is a big difference.
Absolutely.
I think retention at the leadership level has been corrected a lot because of a lot of the strategic HR hiring and better strategic HR practices, more focus on employee relations. A lot of companies are doing better retaining their leaders now, and pay at leadership levels has definitely caught up to the mainstream. It's no longer take a big, huge pay cut to come into cannabis.
That's great.
Yeah, that is great.
Awesome. Anything else we should keep an eye on in the next coming months? I mean, let's say before September, should we look for any of these companies to be making major moves when it comes to leadership?
Yeah, I think that, I think, and it's not a great thing to talk about, it doesn't seem like a great thing on the surface, but I think you're going to see more companies go through more rounds of layoffs, but smaller rounds of layoffs. I've been talking to a lot of people here, a lot of HR friends who refer to this stage of the cannabis industry as get your S together type of stage, which means you have to cut. You can't, it looks very bad for a cannabis company to scale, and then when things get really rough, let go of hundreds of people.
Gotcha.
That's all that people remember about your cannabis company. People are realizing now that real companies actually cut annually about 5 to 15% of their worst performers. That's a regular exercise that most companies in mainstream industries do. I think we're going to see more cannabis companies going through that exercise more regularly, because if you cut a few or a dozen people at a time out of your organization, it's much better than just letting the poor performers just perform poorly and build up and then cut 200 people at a time. That's all anyone's going to remember about your organization.
Interesting perspective and well said. We have BRYAN PASSMAN, head hunter at Hunter & Esquire. We're only missing Jessica today. We wish her the best, but I'm sure she's holding down the company being the Esquire while you're here. Apparently just making business with everybody in the back, man. Good to have you.
Thank you for having me, and always a pleasure. Thank you.
Awesome, brother.